Today we're going to be looking at layering of photos within Photoshop and how you can quickly and easily create unique images. Okay, so we have Photoshop open. This is the image that we're going to be using to learn simple layering in Photoshop. As you can see, my finger is protruding into my eye orifice with my eyeball protruding out of my mouth region. With any Photoshop photo, we need to have the proper photos to do the effect. So with this particular effect, we have our base photo, just me with a billiard ball in my mouth, acting shot. I'm a great actor. We have our eye texture, and then we have the hand, and then we have skin texture, which we will apply to underneath the eye to kind of add just that little bit as if I'm actually touching the eyeball. Anyway, so what we're going to do first is add the eyeball to my mouth. So we have the eye texture and the base is all we'll need for that. And what you want to do is take the eye texture layer. Let's take the opacity down to whatever comfortable so we can see underneath, and then just adjust the image to get the eyeball in the proper position that seems right for where the billiard is. So let's see, I think right there actually looks pretty solid. So let's go to the base layer. Let's select our magic wand. Let's go around the ball here, the billiard, number 4. And then go ahead and the selection's good, select the eye texture layer, and then go down here and click the add vector mask, add layer mask I mean, and then boom, we got that. So if you zoom out here, the effect is done and we're done. Joking, but it's pretty close, it's getting there. So to make minor adjustments, we can double click on, hold on, let me go back to that real fast. So here's our eye texture layer. We just created a mask, and now this black square represents the mask we just created. So it's selected, so we can see up here in the properties window, you have density and feathering. So let me just show you real fast. If you take the density, bring it down, you can see what we masked out is now becoming visible. And if you bring the feathering up, the feathering will, well, it feathers out the mask. But if you double click on it, we have more options. And we also have brushes to work with. So we have the Refine Edge brush, which is good for hair. If you see when I select it, it doesn't really fully erase, but it does, it just tries to find, again, the refine. It's very fine edges. So we can go to, you can see here how there's a little bit of green showing. So what we can do is go to Shift Edge and expand it out a little bit until we don't see any more of that green, which right there looks pretty good. Let's feather it just a hair. Let's go 0.9 is probably good. Smooth it down just a little bit, because you can see here it's right around here, it's pretty jagged. So just smooth it down. 10 seems good. Contrast, if you want, just a hair, not too much. Let's leave that at 5% around there. So next we're going to add our hand into the photo. And also I just want to address these photos don't have to be taken on a green screen. I did that because I don't have the lighting equipment to make a pitch black background. So we go to our magic wand again and just start selecting everything we need to select. So go around. Don't really need to select the hair too much because we can grab that later. Alright, right there is pretty solid. So again, let's add layer mask right here, and look at that mask. It's hideous. So before we clean up the mask, let's adjust the hand and let's get it right in the proper position where it's going to be. Somewhere right there looks pretty solid. And the reason I say to adjust it to the right position is because this down here is ugly and this is ugly, but you'll see when we get in the right position, you don't even see those areas, so we don't need to worry about cleaning those up. So right there's good. Let's go to, again, this is our mask, the layer mask, and we double click it. Let's zoom in a little. Now this is where we can use the refine edge brush. If we go on the edge here, you can see how it is picking up a little bit of the hair. Right? See right there, it's picking up the hair without grabbing too much of the green. We can go down here. Oh, we can go down here. Just go around these edges right here. And honestly, I like to do this too because it adds almost a little feather to the edge. I mean, you can do that just by putting a feather, but I also just like the feather it does with this brush, but not too much. You don't want to go overboard. But just in these areas where there's a lot of green, a lot of black shadows that just kind of look weird. Let's see. We don't need to worry about too much down here because that's going to be inside the eyeball. Alright, so let's actually feather the whole thing, just a hair. Let's go like 1.5, 1.6. Smooth it down just a little bit. Looks pretty good. So now we have this mask with our hand. Now, let us go to our base layer. So let's turn off the hand and the eyeball. The eyeball texture doesn't really matter. Let's go to the base layer, and now we're going to remove this eyeball. Okay. So two ways you could do that. We can do the magic wand tool, or you could just do it by hand with the eraser. Sorry, that's not the eraser. The eraser. But we'll do the magic wand. I just prefer it. It's fast. Work harder, not smarter. Sorry, that's not the phrase. Work smarter, not harder. Learned that from an old man at Sam's Club. Great guy. So let's just select the eye. This one, you want to definitely be detailed with it. And I was actually thinking, will we select this part? I mean, would that part be gone when we stick it in? Let's cut it out. Let's see what happens. So that looks pretty good. Looks all solid. So then again, click the layer mask, and then go to properties window, hit invert, and now we have this nice gaping hole in my eye. Where'd my eyeball go? I'm not sure. So let's double click on our mask, and let's feather it out just a hair again. Smooth it down. Just a hair. See how many times I say hair. Add some contrast, and that looks pretty solid. I like that. But for those things, just adjust it however you see fit. Now let's turn back on our hand layer, and now let's remove the finger, of which you would be going into the eyeball. So we can just take the opacity down a little bit. Right there is good, and then we just go select our eraser. If it doesn't allow you to erase, this is always going to pop up. The smart object must renderize before processing. Edit contents will no longer be available. It's a small object. You just say okay. It's whatever. And let me adjust my brush real fast. The hardness, we want the hardness to be, we'll go with 75. Basically that's the softness of the edges of your eraser. And then we can just move around here and erase. Hold on, let me reset real fast. We have opacity for our brush set to 34%. We want it set to 100%, so erase everything. So let's go back, erase, 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 right on the edges. Looks good, looks good. All right, we can turn the opacity back up, and yeah, looks solid. So what I want to do now is, since we have this gaping hole in my eye, is let's grab our rectangle tool and just drag a whole rectangle over the whole image. And let's, up here, fill is a horrible green. Let's make it a beautiful black. And take the rectangle tool, layer, all the way to the bottom. And we'll name this black background. That'll just help with seeing this better instead of that checkered board. So that looks pretty solid. I'm liking the way that looks. So the last image we have is the skin texture. We have the eyeball right here. What is this called? We're gonna use the lasso tool right over here, which is just a tool to make any shape you want of a selection. Look at that shape, that's like a, I don't know, trapezoid. And what we're gonna do is we are going to select here, right at the base of, I guess the start of our eyelid. Come around here, and then just stay right on the edges of these wrinkles, because the wrinkles are gonna want, it's gonna be what we want for the effect. And with the lasso tool, you can hold down Alt, and after you make your selection, and then draw another image, and that's how you delete some of it. And if you hold down Shift, you can add. So I say that because right here we have a little bit of hair from the eyelid that has been cut off. So I just want to add that in. And now let's make the mask. Pull it on up here. It's beautiful. Oh, it's hideous. That is ugly. And I tell you what we're gonna do is double click, and we need to refine this. So we're going to select the brush tool within our mask refining window and hold down Alt, and we're just gonna start removing just gonna remove the dark parts because they look kind of weird, and keep those nice light fleshy areas. And then straighten up some of these little jagged areas. Add just a hair of feather. Let's go 1. And that should be solid. Hit OK. So now let's clean up these edges down here. Let's select the erase tool, and let's come up here and make the hardness 0. So let's make it as soft as possible. I'm going to bring the size up a little bit too, just to really make it soft for what we're about to do. That'll be good. And then we're just going to just tap these edges here. Just see how as we do that, it starts to really blend in as we're erasing. And now we got, yeah, looks good. Now we just need to erase what's underneath. So that is the base layer. So let's just select the base layer and, select the base layer. Let's just erase what was underneath there. Get the eraser tool. Let's make it small again. Don't need to be that big. And let's just erase. And you know what? That was my bad, because I forgot we were going to be adding this little eyelid part there. And now we have a nice little cut on our finger. So that was my bad. So what we'll do is we'll just push the image down a little bit. Look, it still looks good. Let's go a little bit lower. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is just add the shading to our image. to make everything come to life. And basically we just select our brush tool, make the color black, and then we can go up here to the settings. And size wise, I'm fine with the size. Hardness, we typically want to keep it pretty soft for shading. And then the opacity I like to keep low, about 20% we can do it, just so we're not overblowing the shade. And so we're going to select the base layer, so we're on the face, and we can just start adding shading where the hand would be. And what's important with this kind of stuff, something to keep in mind, is notice where the shadows are from your true image. So again, we want to put shadow over here. That wouldn't make sense. And I know y'all are sitting there thinking, no doubt. But you'd be surprised. So now let's add some shading to the eyeball. Right here. Ooh, eye texture. Nice little, let's make the brush a little smaller. Just there, you see? Yeah. Ooh. Ooh. And tell you what, on the face, I just want to add a little bit more. Let's make the brush kind of big. 300 is good. Add a little bit more down here. So I feel like there'd be, maybe not like that. Let's go back. A little more like right there, where the hand is. And now, with that, we have our completed effect for the photo. Now, the last steps that I took to complete the final image is obviously removing the green, adding a black background. That was it, and we already have that with that right there. And then just pulling it into Lightroom and just making adjustments. But that was it. And the last thing I'll say too is know what type of photo you're trying to do, what kind of effect you're trying to do, what kind of style. I knew I wanted a black background, and so with some of these, if we look right here, with some of these masks, like when I remove the green, for example, it's not like the best mask. These hands, it's not like the best mask, but with a black backdrop, everything kind of hides and it blends in well. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with tutorials involving Premiere Pro, After Effects, Photoshop, and anything regarding just indie filmmaking in general.